Yeah, so 510 at Hollywood Park.
Oh,
So
okay.
usually, yeah, so usually over in Inglewood and in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
just moved here. So
Oh, okay.
um, yeah, so it's a 510. It's normally a 5-10-20 game. It's straddled to 20, but games
Yep.
just advertised as 5-10.
And
So there's
also,
this.
one of our content creators is like a full time player over there, Peter. Stay in school, Peter O'Neill. But I used to play a lot in that game, 5, 10, 20. It was great during the day. Great, like 2017 through 2019.
I think it's still pretty good.
Is there a cap in the game? Is it a 20? We used to play with a 2500 cap, which was really good for the game. Actually, they ruined it when they made it uncapped.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yep.
no, it's a 2500 cap.
Oh, it is. Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, is it just because better players would come in
Yeah,
with?
because here's the thing: there were some really, really big time crushers in LA, and they had a lot. This is people don't understand, man. They got to be smart about making money, right? And this is the problem that I have with a lot of euros, right? And this was always the example, and I gave it on the Doug Polk podcast too, where there was literally an example of we're in this game, and like five German guys, I don't know, maybe it was slow over at Commerce, and they came over to Hollywood Park in the same Uber or the same fucking rental car and went up. There was one game, right, during the day, sometimes two, and they all went up like in order on the list. It's either they don't care or they don't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it's like they just don't care. Let's like show these Americans ego thing,
I don't know if it's
probably.
even that though. Someone else brought up like in the issue that I have is that like I'm in here for 6 months and I'm out. I'm just gonna take. I don't give a fuck. I mean that's the biggest problem that I have, right? It's like not my home. I don't care. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about the ecosystem of anything. But yeah, normally if you made this game uncapped, then you'd start to see really strong players. And what they would do, Americans, stupid Americans, they would just come over and sit 25,000 deep. And even though it's no limit, right, and it's effective stacks, a rec guy will play in a 2,500 cap game with 1,000, but he doesn't want to sit there with guys with 25,000. That's why it was bad for the game, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, why
So,
intimidate like your biggest customers for no reason?
yeah.
So I'm under the gun with Queen of Spades, Queen of
How
Clubs.
deep are you, by the way?
Good question. I am like 4.5
Okay.
deep.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, the main villain is on the button. He's like 6K deep.
Okay. So
And
4.5K effective. So what did you raise to?
so I raised to 40.
Okay.
So kind of standard 4x. Normally would be opening to maybe 75, 80 if it's 5, 10, 20. Okay, so yeah, so there's a guy in the low jack. He's very loose. He's like calling with jack 8 offsuit, just, whatever. He makes a call and everyone's aware of this, very loose low jack player. The small blind three bets to 205.
So and the small
Notice.
blind has you covered. You're the effective stack here. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I make the four bet to 625
Okay.
and he calls.
Okay. So low jack folds and small blind calls, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we get a bloated pot here. It's probably like 1,400, and I mean you're several pot size bets, but the pot's large, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's really ballooned. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, I have a good hand against, wide
Yeah.
three betting
I mean, you want
range.
to get the low jack out, right? The small blind might be squeezing. No,
Exactly.
I get it. We get it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. So the flop is, pretty good. It's 10 of clubs, four of diamonds, and four of clubs.
Okay.
So I have queens with the queen of clubs.
Yep.
So he checks and I bet 420. Um,
420, huh?
and yeah, I almost said blaze it when I bet, but didn't
Uh
want to really give out the tells with a
huh.
big pot.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so the small blind calls.
Okay. So let's just talk about sizing here really quick. So I could even see sometimes, I mean, obviously queens, you don't want to just let free cards come off. So I do like betting, but sometimes in these bloated well, you're supposed to be betting pretty much everything in a four bet pot anyway. So it would be a little bit weird to check. I was just saying like sometimes like the ace of clubs is checked here, but I just wonder at a certain point in a four bet pot on a 10 high board where you're losing to pocket tens, like what's your shape for this hand? Like are you planning to go bet, bet, bet all in with queen queen if it came out like deuce check call, three check check at the end? Like how much value are you trying to get here?
Um, I'm I'm pretty much going for stacks, yeah.
You're going for
Um,
stacks on this board like on a ragged run out.
so okay, I guess you'll see on the turn what I did. But I'm thinking that yeah,
I mean, obviously, you're going to go for stacks with like aces or kings. It's just like queens.
exactly.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just kind of thinking ahead here, right? So the pot
right.
looks like it's 2,220, right? And you have about 3,500 left, so about a pot and a half size bet left. Okay, what's the turn?
So yeah, the turn is the seven of spades.
Okay, well, that's a pretty big blank, right? Shouldn't
I
not.
mean, as yeah, it's one of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
better ones,
yeah,
aside from deuce or three, I'd say.
yeah.
Um, so now he checks, and yeah, as you're saying, like, what am I really trying to do here with queens? I think I like villain can still have aces. It's definitely possible.
Sure. Hmm.
King's probably five betting off this particular opponent. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, there's definitely hands I lose to. Jacks is there, but that's like kind of like just targeting jacks is pretty thin.
Hmm.
And I think I rep sort of like missed ace kings and ace queens with a check back here, so that's what I go for.
But wait a minute. Okay, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but didn't you just say like 2 minutes ago that you think you were playing for stacks here?
Yeah,
Or you're,
yeah.
did I miss
So,
that?
so
Or
my
you're racing the river. I don't know. I'm trying to, I got a lot going on. I'm trying to follow your line of thinking.
So on the flop, I'm thinking like, I'm going for stacks. On the turn, I'm thinking, well, how am I playing the rest of my range here? And how can I sort of balance this with, yeah, queens is a vulnerable hand, but it's also like not too happy going for three streets.
Yeah, but the rest of your range though, like aces and kings, are gonna bet, right?
Right. So I think that I can still continue betting my flush draws. I mean, how many flush draws am I really forbidding here? Maybe just exactly ace five of clubs. Um, and ace four is, I mean, that's trips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Maybe some tens or something like that, but you might check
right.
that too. All right, so let's go to the river. It's 2,220 by my math. Okay.
So, yeah. So now the river is the nine of hearts.
Okay.
Okay. And the small blind bets 2,400
So
into 2,240. Yeah.
so he bets pot.
Yeah. Just like $100 over the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I remember this email.
Yep.
So
Yep.
right. So can you fold here? Is that what you're obviously thinking, right? Like if he's got flats here
Yeah.
with aces and kings, and you're losing to 10-10 and you're losing to 9-9, right? I mean, those are probably all squarely in what he would three bet call, probably, right? With this dynamic, right? 10-10, 9-9. Maybe he's not five betting. A lot of people don't have a five bet range in a given scenario with aces or kings, and now he's going pot. And when you start to think about the hands that have missed here that still comprise of a three bet call, they're usually fairly strong ace highs, like an ace king, right? Something like that. And a lot of guys aren't going to bluff with that. Although sometimes you can turn that into a bluff to try to get somebody to fold out sort of the same hand. So this is pretty dicey. I think a fold is reasonable. I will echo the people in the live chat. If you were to just look at this from an MDF perspective here, and we'll just round it off to full pot, right? It would just mean that you have to, defend with 50% of the hands, that you get here with. How you comprise that of flop bet, turn check back is rather interesting because you can go down the rabbit hole and say, well, queens might actually be in that 50% because I'm betting aces on the turn. I'm betting kings on the turn. So, but again, that assumes that your opponent sort of knows that. You know what I'm saying? So we can be a little bit jaded by this. I think it's probably pretty close, and it's like another one of these where you're probably not losing a ton. I would say either way, I wouldn't lose sleep over it, and I'd kind of more lean towards a fold.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the obvious thing here is I didn't check back river to turn, or check back turn to fold river. But also, I think that that logic kind of only applies to 2/3 pot sizing. 2/3 is kind of I mean, I think it's a lot more of a comfortable call,
Mm-hmm.
just because I think that guys will actually, I mean, like, to bluff full pot is like, why not bluff 2/3 pot for the absolute value of like betting 20. Like, if I were bluff, or if I would think my opponents would bluff 1800 and think that they would have the same fold equity as 2400 here. I think that
So
2400 is a lot stronger.
so that would make you more apt to fold here. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, I think.
Well, you're also getting a worse price here too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're getting a worse price here too. So, I mean, you'll get into these sort of deep stack spots in this game. I mean, some of the craziest hands I've played have been from Hollywood Park 510. Well, that was actually way back when it was like uncapped without a 510, $12,000 pot, just starting with a $30 raise, you know? But did you say that the guy was a lag from the top, sort of? Someone said that in the chat in the beginning of the hand, the small
The
blind?
small blind was lag, yeah. So yeah, I've been saying, like, yeah, he's been three betting pretty aggressively, a little bit undisciplined. Like, I've seen him overcall a three bet on the button with like ace five offsuit, and yeah, so not like the most disciplined
I mean, if
player,
I think the
but
guy's capable, I'm going to call, but I do think it's close. I mean,
I
I
also
do think
think
it's
my image
close.
is pretty tight. So sometimes that levels me into, like, sometimes people think, oh, I'm too conservative a player, so that levels me into
So what
calling
ended up
off.
happening?
Yeah, so yeah, leveled myself into just putting it in. And yeah, I mean, I did put him on tens or nines, and yeah, he does show up with the pocket tens, 10 of spades, 10 of hearts.
10 of spades, 10 of hearts. Well, I know I wouldn't lose sleep over it, Sean. I really I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I don't think that you played it that badly. I think the four bet's almost mandatory with that guy in there. You know, again, I would just start thinking about on the flop, how much money do I want to put in? I think that your line is fine. I like, because I think you're gonna get called more on the flop by ace highs as opposed to checking it back. Your hand needs a little bit of protection, and I don't have an issue that much really with a little bit of a pot control sort of line on the turn, which I always point out comes from pot limit. Pot control comes from pot limit. When the games used to be pot limit, turn check is actually pot control because they can only bet the pot on the river. In no limit, where people can go unlimited betting, it changes things a little bit, right? Now,
Right.
usually people don't go over sort of pot, but definitely an interesting hand, and I appreciate the call. Thank you.